and welcome to another edition of You Can Get There From Here. I'm Dr. Joel Moore, Chair of the Department of Communication and Digital Media Production at the University of Central Missouri, and it's my pleasure every week to get to sit down and visit with some of our alumni. I talked to some who graduated in digital media production, others who graduated from communication studies, and some who earned their degrees in their master's program. Today, we're sitting down with Robbie Sager, a 2024 graduate of our communication studies program. Robbie, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Now, do you still go by Robbie or is it Robert now that you're in the professional world?
I go by Robbie. I was told actually at one of my first jobs out of college that, I got to keep my youth to me while I still have it. So I like to go by Robbie. I started to go by Robert, but I go by Robbie still.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, tell us about where you're from, what brought you to UCM, what got you into communication studies.
So from Southwest Missouri, a little town called Carthage, just outside of Joplin.
Where that is.
Yep, grew up just down there and went to high school at Carthage High School, graduated in 2020. That was a fateful year.
Oh.
So that kind of limited a few options. But before all that craziness happened, I went on a couple visits and I fell in love with just the campus of UCM itself. Admittedly, I was looking for a place to get a scholarship for golf. And I talked to that coach for a while and it just didn't pan out the way I'd hoped. So I had to go elsewhere. But then, you know, things happened, stars started to line. I, met up with the coach again a year and a half later, if not actually probably just a year later. And, I started to develop a little bit more with my golf skills. So I came back to UCM and started in the spring of 22. And that's what got me back there. I fell in love with the campus. The college is, I wanted to go for more of a small town kind of vibe, but still a little bit further away and a little bit bigger than what I had come from back in Carthage.
Yeah, I've spent some time down in Carthage. My career before here was at Missouri Southern, it's where I met my wife, and we have some dear friends down in Carthage. That's a beautiful area down there.
Oh yeah, absolutely beautiful.
So that got you. Went from Carthage. Where did you go between here and Carthage, or here
I
between
went
here and
down.
yeah, between
I
here and
went,
Carthage?
yeah, I went down to Oklahoma City. I studied at Oklahoma City University as a business student.
Okay, and built up the skills a little bit and decided
Yep.
to come back. Well, we're glad you did. We're glad you ended up here at the University of Central Missouri. So you were on the golf team, communication
Mhm.
studies. What else were you involved in? What all were you taking part in while you were in school?
Um, it took me a minute to kind of get used to everything and get comfortable with just being at school and in a different environment. So that first semester that I was here, I pretty much just kept to myself, did the golf team, and then over time, my buddies on the golf team, they encouraged me to keep, getting out there and introducing myself to new people and whatnot. So I ended up joining FCA and going to a Bible study here on campus. I don't think it was necessarily campus related, but a lot of my friends were doing it, and I've been a big proponent of my faith, so I wanted to, get back into being a part of something like that. So I joined that FCA group, and that was a really, really good thing for me to do. It helped me to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, talk to more people. And that was kind of the main thing I did. Being a student athlete, you have a lot of time commitments, so in between practice and doing homework, making sure I stayed up on my studies like that, and going to FCA and Bible study, there was a lot that filled my plate. So that was the majority of what I did. But I also love to tackle other projects and go meet people within the communications and the digital media production side as well, just to kind of get an ear as to what they were doing with their studies as well.
So you were really working the whole Robbie Sager while you were in school here. You work in the mind, body, and spirit. That's great. I'm glad to hear
Absolutely.
that.
Yep.
Still involved with FCA?
Not as much. I still keep in touch with a lot of those friends that I made through that group. And if I have time, I'd love to come down and join the group again just to see how it's improved since when I was there. I know they've grown a little bit bigger. That's really awesome to see. But work kind of gets in the way sometimes, as it does as you get older. So I got a couple of commitments there that I got to take care of first. But I try to keep in touch with those people that still are in that organization and try to encourage them to keep moving forward.
I know a few of them. We have a couple of them still in our program. I'll have a little chat with them, tell them they need to bring you back up here.
Good deal. Yeah, absolutely.
So you had pretty good senior year here for the Mule. Let me read this. You won your first tournament of the year. You had three top 10 finishes and six top 15. You're a two-time academic honor roll member for the MIAA. Today, you're putting your golf skills together and your communication studies skills together as a certified personal coach for GOLFTEC. Talk about that. What do you do there?
So a lot of what I do, I like to boil it down to building relationships with these people. These people are walking into the store, they're calling the store saying, "Hey, I need some help with my golf game." And so my job is to get down to the nitty-gritty details of why they need that help. So I like to talk to them, say, "Hey, what's going on with your swing? Why do you think you need some golf lessons?" I really just want to put it in their uh, put the ball in their court, so to say, so to say, this is what I need help from. And then I can say, okay, this is what we can do to help. And we go through the process. And then throughout the lessons that we have a couple different packages and whatnot, but we'll go through the lessons. I like to talk to them. In some ways, I like to make it almost a therapy session. You know, they can come into our center and start hitting, ask them how their day's going, how their week's been going. You know, if something's bothering them, I'm not going to say, nope, we got to focus on golf, right? Because at the end of the day, we're people, right? People just trying to make a living, make a difference in this world and get by just as we can. So I like to just communicate with them, talk to them, listen to them, and understand what's going on with their life. And then, you know, if we make a little improvement in their golf game along the way, that's a-okay with me. That's kind of the whole goal. But I like to make my students feel heard and seen and just have some fun with it as well.
Well, what's that old saying? People don't care what you know until they know you care. You build that relationship, like you said. As a former athlete myself, I know most of the coaches that I worked best with were the ones that really cared who I was as a person, not as an athlete. I'm sure you were the same way, yeah?
Absolutely. Yes.
So what age groups do you work with?
Well, the youngest I have right now, she's 10. She's a hoot. But then I also go all the way up to 70 and plus. I think I've had an 80-year-old as a student before. And so it really ranges, right? You get a lot of the high school students trying to play well and get into colleges. I have a couple of college students that, you know, maybe they played baseball in high school, but they didn't really want to continue that into college. So the streamline is any other sport in high school goes into golf inevitably, because it's a sport you can play for the rest of your life, I always like to say. So we get those people that have those baseball swings. And then we got to, you know, move a little bit. So it ranges. You know, 10, you can go even younger than that. I think we have a couple of 7 and 8 year olds come into the center, and then all the way up to senior.
So we talk an awful lot in communication studies, from public speaking all the way through teamwork and dynamics and interpersonal relationships and all of that. You have to know your audience. And so
Mhm.
you're running the gambit from grade school all the way to retired.
Oh
How do
yeah.
you make that switch? How do you communicate with such a wide variety of people? And I'm assuming you work with men and women, correct?
Yes, absolutely. It's you're not wrong. It's a bit of a gambit. It's a bit of a trial and error. My 10-year-old that I teach, she some of the stuff that I say, you know, it's a lot of golf lingo, golf terminology, and I'm trying to find ways to relate it to her. So, for instance, trying to help her in golf terms, try to drop the shoulder a little bit, and so I said, okay, do you have any pets at home? She said, yeah, I have a couple of cats. I was like, okay. So I want you to pretend you have a ball of yarn and you want to throw the ball of yarn a little like side underarm down the hall. I don't want you to throw it right at their head because they're right below you. You don't need to do that. Throw it down the hall. She used that and she runs with it now. So it's that trial and error of finding ways or analogies to make them think a little bit more and connect the dots between what I'm saying and maybe some golf terms, and then in their terms that help them understand it a little bit more. It definitely is a bit of a gambit, like you said, but that's kind of the fun challenge of it, is to try to find different ways to say the same thing.
Okay, I have bagged up my clubs because my game is so bad. I'm gonna try that. Throwing the I've got a cat. Throw the ball of yarn down the hole. We'll see how that
There you
works.
go. There
So
you
was
go.
this,
Free lesson for you.
yeah, thank you. This worked out great. So was this the plan all along, that you wanted to take you obviously have a love of people, but that love of people and that love of golf, were you wanting to all along, were you wanting to put those two together for a career?
I do believe so. I mean, we always have dreams really young, and sometimes they seem a little far off. I wanted to be an astronaut one day, and now I'm thinking, okay, no, I'm not stepping into the vacuum of space. But when I started to play golf and I fell in love with it, and I started to think that, I could go really far in this, I was like, okay, this is something that I want to do for the rest of my life, whether I help people start playing the game that I love and not necessarily throw the passion on them, but try to help them see the passion that I have and develop that passion of their own. That it was a game changer for me. My first job out of college, I was a head golf professional for a small little municipal, and there weren't a lot of people in that town that I started in, but it was a great way for me to just plant myself in the industry and start seeing where I could go with it. And the more people that I started talking to on the range and help them fix their swings, the more I was like, okay, I can really do this, and I can really try to help people at a much larger stage than where I'm at right now. And so I ended up finding this job in Kansas City. I've always wanted to live in Kansas City. Go Chiefs. Kind of been a rough season, but
They'll
so I
be
moved
back.
up
They'll be
here.
back.
Oh yeah, they will. Moved up here, and as I got this job, and it's a little bit more fast paced because it's a lot more people, but going through and teaching many people a day and helping them develop their own love for the game, because that's ultimately what they want to do. They want to enjoy the game more.
Right.
And then to do that, in some cases, yeah, you got to play a little bit better. Nobody wants to hit a slice off the tee for the rest of their life and say, "Yeah, I'm having fun."
No, gets
So
really
it's
old.
it's just one of those things. I went through in high school and college golf. Everybody that does that typically has the dream to go pro. But at some point, not saying that dreams die, but a little bit of reality kicks in a little bit, and you're like, okay, I gotta plant my feet a little bit first. And so I was like, you know what? I can still play, but I can help people at the same time. And so that was my motivation for getting into the golf industry and helping people play better golf.
Well, and golf's one of those sports you can play the rest of your life, so being able to put
Mhm.
those together is great. I mentioned a couple of classes, but I want to hear from you. What really, from your communication studies program, what did you take from that? What classes, what experiences, what there helped you get where you are today?
Well, and actually, one of the things I forgot to mention earlier, you asked me why I got into communication studies, because I started as a business school student down in Oklahoma City. But when I moved up here, I wanted to transition into communications. And part of the reason, I also got married this year, and I wanted to, this was obviously pre-engagement, pre-marriage, that I sw made the switch. I was like, okay, you know what, this relationship is really going well. I want to continue things and move things along, progress them. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I know how to communicate with my wife. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to learn how to communicate in a practical sense. And so it's a funny story. I always tell people when they ask me why I chose communications, so that I can make sure I communicate with my wife and understand her a little bit better. And it's gone well so far. So that was my main reasoning. And I'll tell you the best one, not necessarily even for my job, but the best class that I took while I was in the communications department was listening for my marriage and for my job as well. I can't help people just by saying, okay, you need to do this, right? I need to understand and listen to them. Why are they having struggles? What is their true purpose for being in golf tech and wanting to get better at golf? I have to listen to them and understand and actively try to figure out what's going on in their lives and in their golf swing and in their golf game so that I can help them cater to them, right? It's not a generalized thing for me. I want to understand them and their processes so that they can get better exponentially faster through that custom plan that I built for them.
Listening to understand, not listening to respond. That is so key.
Correct.
I think we'd solve a lot of problems if we would just all take that advice and do that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. So what is next for Robbie Sager?
Well, I'm continuing to build my business at GolfTech to continue to get more students and grow with that. Obviously, hoping to continue to nurture and grow my relationships that I've been able to form while I've been up here. Obviously, my marriage as well. But really, that's as I said, I'm always looking for new things, new opportunities. to help grow myself as a person, as an individual, as a husband, as a golf coach, and even just as a professional and in general. I'm trying to look for new opportunities to grow and use my degree. And that was the other thing that I wanted to do at communications. Um, it's such a broad range. A lot of people say, well, you can do anything with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of the point. I want to be able to go into multiple different industries and say, okay, I can help here. I can be of use and I can improve myself and gain a larger understanding of how I operate by doing so. And so communication to me was kind of like a no-brainer for all of those reasons. And if I had to say anything, that department is probably one of the best departments. I went to a couple other departments for, gen eds and whatnot. But Dr. Geiger, Dr. Freeman, Dr. Newsom, all of those people, those were some of the most fun professors that I've ever had. I unfortunately didn't have you as a professor. I heard a lot of great things about you.
Well, thank you.
Um, but I unfortunately didn't take any classes in the digital media side, which I wish I did. But so I think I'm leading into a question that you probably are going to ask, but to anybody, go take class from Dr. Moore, expand it, and don't just stick to communication studies. I think that's probably one of the biggest regrets I have. I didn't really jump around and take other like digital media productions because that's where the world's going at this point. I didn't take a whole lot of those classes, and now I'm wishing I did.
It's never too late. You're just up the road. Come on back.
That's true. That's true.
Well, since you went ahead and jumped into it, let's go ahead and jump to that last couple of questions. The advice that you would have for a current student, and you would say
Mhm.
spread it out, try some new
Spread it out
things.
a little bit, right? There's a lot of great classes in the Comm Studies department, Comm Studies specifically, but Dr. Newsom, I think I did a class where we got into coding, got into um, Java and the Photoshop and all that. All that is becoming so huge nowadays. There's a big department within my organization that works on that and works on their marketing and stuff like that. So digital media is huge, and it's getting even bigger, even with AI coming in. There's a lot. I actually talked to some professionals in like data analysis and stuff like that, and I was like, "What? How is AI taking from your job?" And he was like, "It's not really. That we're using it to help us, but it's not taking jobs away." That's kind of a myth that sometimes the media likes to portray. So take those classes, take those extra ones. Maybe even if it's outside of your comfort zone a little bit, jump outside, right? Do something that scares you a little bit so that you become a more well-rounded student, well-rounded professional once you graduate. That would be the best piece of advice that I could give someone.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about the AI. We're starting to look into that more as a tool, not as a
Mhm.
replacement. We had an alum of a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to our advisory board, and she said, people aren't going to lose jobs to AI. They're going to lose jobs to people who know how to use AI to their benefit. So
Absolutely.
we're getting into that. We're starting to work into that. What advice would you have for a student who's thinking about coming to UCM for communication studies or digital media?
I would say jump on it. Obviously, I've been to one other college and I didn't really take communications there. I took a couple classes and they were great, but the faculty and the staff in the communications department, from everyone that I took classes from and from what I know about you, Dr. Moore, they care about you as a person as much as they do as a student. They want you to succeed. And the best way that you can grow at UCM is to just talk to the professors. I mean, like I'm a communications major, I might be a little biased, but talking to people instead of like holding yourself up and saying, no, no, they're a professor, they're above me, they're not going to help me at all. They want me to just do all my work on my own. Like that's not the case. A lot of high schools like to say that this won't fly in college. Again, that's also not the case. A lot of stuff, I won't say a lot of stuff flies, but a lot of the stuff that they make out to college to be this big, scary place, it's really not. I found it to be very fruitful. And especially at UCM, it's such a close-knit community within just Warrensburg in general. There's a ton to do there. Join a sport. The golf team is great. Coach Poe is awesome. Um, but join a sport, go do other activities, branch out, reach out to FCA. They're a great group of people. But really all I can say is just jump in, right? Feet first, head first, whatever you want to say. Just jump in, join the mules, mules and jennies. There was no place that I would rather have gone to college and gotten my degree from.
Well, Robbie, we're glad that you came here, and as a department chair, that does make me proud to hear that our students and our alumni recognize our faculty care. That we're not here just to teach you in the classroom. We're not here just to get you into UCM. We want you to come to UCM and graduate from the University of Central Missouri, and we want you to have a good time and a great experience while you're here. So, Robbie, thank you so much for being on today. We're proud of you. I'm going to have to get up there and get me some lessons and see if we can go beyond the rolling the ball of yarn and see if I can get that swing straightened out. But keep doing what you're doing and
Absolutely.
building those relationships.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. And thanks all of you for tuning in today. Remember, you can catch every episode on our YouTube channel through the UCM Media Network. That's youtube.com/UCMMN. You can also listen on Spotify. Special thanks to Jake Mager for creating our theme music for us. Again, this is Dr. Joe Moore reminding you, you can get there from here. Have a great day.